I said this way during, due diligence is horrible, but I said this during that period. We had a better match than we had any right to possibly imagine.
Welcome to Verify in Field, the Millwork podcast. Here's Jacob.
Welcome back, everybody, to Verify in Field. Today, I've got a second-time guest. Actually, probably this is your third episode. I think last time we had you on, we did a two-parter. So this is part 3, and an exciting update as we've got some hot off-the-press news that we're going to be talking about today. Innergy's acquisition of Microvellum and what that means for our industry right from the source. So thanks, Jonah, for joining us again today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Every time you and I get together, it's always dangerous. We can turn it into a 2-3 part episode, I think, pretty easy.
I know. We always go off the tracks, and this might be too long, but I'm excited. Yeah, today I think we've got a lot of questions, a lot of burning questions that I'm sure those listening are excited and eagerly anticipating. After this news, people started going back and seeing if there were any nuggets they could gain or inside information from the last episode. And so I think it's almost a year and a half later, and obviously outside of the acquisition, you guys have continued working. Design's come a long way, and so I'm excited to talk about all the above. Maybe just for those who haven't listened to that, if you haven't listened to Jonah's last interview, we'll link that in the show notes. Go back and listen to our previous interview with Jonah. It was a two-parter talking about Innergy, his background, his story, as well as where design was at that point as a new beta software. And now, obviously, it's coming up, it's grown up, and a lot of things have changed with Innergy. And as you see on Jonah's shirt there, we'll talk a little bit about Innergy plus Microvellum. So if we just jump right in, Innergy just announced the acquisition of Microvellum, if those listening haven't heard. From Innergy's standpoint, from your standpoint, what does this strategic acquisition mean for Innergy and for our industry?
Yeah, great question. Thanks. So for us, we found kind of a match made in heaven. We found a company that, and I'm going to turn around, hopefully it comes through. The back of this shirt says, by woodworkers, for woodworkers. We're a couple of the only companies I know of, at least large ones, in this space for software that really honestly can say that many of us are from the industry. We had a perfect cultural match. I said this way during, due diligence is horrible, but I said this during that period. We had a better match than we had any right to possibly imagine. The two companies see eye to eye on so much. So even without specific plans, to be real honest with you, we were ready to jump right in because we know that there's something amazing going to come out the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that, I've talked about this with I posted a little bit as people were asking about this, but I think that is an entirely unique thing, especially in software acquisitions, not just in our industry, but really in any industry. It's very rarely is there that much synergy and alignment of the two companies from the get-go. And so I think that's what's exciting to me and should be exciting for so many in the millwork industry about what's to come. And so why is this important for the millwork and design industries? Because, one, we don't see a lot of software acquisitions just specifically in our industry. There's been a few, I think Hexagon has bought Cabinavision and they've gone through a few acquisitions. And there are a couple others, I think Mosaic and things like that. But it's rare that we see something this big, this impactful to our industry. So I think most people don't really know what to think, don't really know how to react or what to expect, right?
Sure. Yeah. Well, and you, I think, are probably going to ask me a little more pointed questions about what to expect and what's going to happen, I assume. But just at like a very top level, I've been really honored to work with Innergy. It's been, a collection of some of the smartest, most progressive-looking, forward-looking people that I've ever had the chance to work with. And when I travel to Microvellum's headquarters in Medford, I see the same thing. And I think you and I met years back at a Microvellum TechCon event. I'd been there a couple of times, so it wasn't a surprise for me. Part of the fun of this journey, I mean, there's a lot of money, like a lot of money went into this. And so a lot of due diligence, a lot of looking behind the scenes. And so my CEO, Mark Sanderson, and myself, we knew intimately. I've used Microvellum. He's owned Microvellum. And so we didn't have to learn as much as some of the other people on our team who didn't have that experience, even if they come from other parts of woodworking. They didn't know anything about engineering. And so it's been really fun getting to show them how everything works and how everything gets together. So really what I'm looking forward to is we have so many big things to do and tackle for this industry. Our industry is quite the laggard technology wise, and it's such a big open green field that we're going to have many years of just helping people learn the software we already have, not to mention some cool stuff we're going to do.
Yeah. So getting into some specifics, talking specifically about from Innergy's side and looking at the long-term vision that, you guys have and is continually evolving, I'm sure. What does acquiring Microvellum enable Innergy to do today? It allows you to accelerate and achieve some things, I would imagine, particularly with energy design. What does some of that look like?
Yeah, also a good question. So for us, we set out a long time ago to solve hard problems in the woodworking space. We believe very strongly that the way you build a group of raving fans is by solving hard industry problems. You know this as well as anybody. Engineering is a hard industry problem. It's one of the top. When we survey, it's number one, number two, somewhere in that range. I did a fun little exercise at the end of last year. We have 350 customers, and they've got roughly $2.5 billion worth of industry revenue underneath them. So I was able to look at all of the work that those customers have and what steps it's in. And then I used an AI to help me categorize, is this an engineering step or is this not an engineering step? Because 350 customers name their things 400 different ways, of course. So at that point, over 40% of the industry's work was stuck in an engineering step. So it's a really tough problem. We set out to solve that problem with design, and Microvellum is just another way we're going to solve that problem. They have a very large, very loyal customer base who know a lot about that software. We're not going to mess with it. I'm sure you're going to ask me that question. In fact, I'm going to make you ask me that question when we get there so that I can answer it. But we're going to be able to use some of that same technology. We set out, for example, to do our own nesting and machine code. And man, we knew it was a big undertaking, but we decided we need some help. And Microvellum came along at just the right time to help us with that.
Yeah, because on that front, right, you guys, without this acquisition, you're writing everything from scratch, essentially. You're having to solve this problem kind of from square one, right? So I imagine this allows you to accelerate some things. And then for those that don't know, I think Microvellum just in the last week or so actually released a new beta of their own nesting algorithm and an update with that. That's a big, significant change for them, and I think hopefully a big improvement. There's a lot of things
tremendously faster and brings some new technologies in, generative process. So it's not quite as you don't get the exact same result every time, but it'll learn to get a better result as it goes. And 100%, those are things that we're also very good at. And if we take that nesting technology and we continue to support it in Microvellum, but we also share it with our design technology, now we can invest more into it because everything we put into it gets two applications, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So that point right there is something that I don't know if people realize. There is essentially a much bigger return on investment for anything you do that can benefit both Innergy and Microvellum now. Obviously, there is already, before the acquisition, there was an overlap of customers. There's Microvellum customers who are already Innergy customers and vice versa. And so there is mutual benefit to not piss off either of those customers, right? And to continue to support them very well. But through that, you guys already had a working relationship. Like you said, Innergy very much had to understand Microvellum to integrate between the two, and Microvellum Innergy as well. But now everything you guys do, you have to look at through a new lens that says, okay, we can now invest in improving our nesting algorithm, and it's going to benefit two sets of customer bases, a much larger impact, which makes it that much more worthwhile to put those efforts in than it was on an individual basis, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I'll give you another example. So one of the things that Microvellum is going to help Innergy with is Microvellum has a very extensive product library, right? Huge, especially compared to all the other engineering platforms out there. You can go get ready to go versions of all kinds of hardware and various funky units, right? Yeah. So with our design product, we would have had to build that from scratch. And we did. We started on that road. We're pretty far down that road. We have some cool stuff there too. we're going to share that same technology. So you'll be able to use your Microvellum library inside design, right? And so again, now how much bang for the buck do we get when we add new things to that library? A
Right.
lot. And it shows up in both places.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I don't know if everybody knows how much more extensive Microvellum's libraries are. When you buy Microvellum, you get a library. One, not all the competitors do that at all. But two, even the ones that do, I don't think it's nearly as extensive as Microvellum. And so right off the bat, yeah, now you're already getting, if you can integrate and make usable Microvellum's library and Innergy and vice versa, all the effort you produce now going forward, you can put that effort into creating new products that didn't exist before to benefit both.
That's right. And we can fund more work in that area.
Yeah. So outside of that, you've shared a good bit now, but before we talk into from the Microvellum standpoint, are there any specific plans or milestones that you can share yet that people can expect from the Innergy side? Obviously, you're going to be trying to integrate and will be integrating and leveraging Microvellum's nesting algorithm and things like that to accelerate energy design. Is there anything else on the horizon that you can share today yet?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. A lot of it we're not willing to talk about yet, just because we don't want to, put out things that we're not absolutely sure on. I'm not going to lie to you. We came to a point in this deal where it was like we can either get the deal done and not know exactly what we're going to do afterwards, or we can let the deal die. And we decided to jump right in. We found a good marriage partner, and we took the leap with them. So those two things are the only things that I think that we even know for sure at this point. But we have a lot of faith that these two groups of very smart people are going to come up with important industry-changing things to do.
And that's something that, for those that are listening, and I think most in this industry, if you've not been involved in an acquisition deal like this, I think from the outsiders in, a lot of times, and you probably get questions that come across this way, is they think like everything's decided, everything's figured out, and like, okay, you guys have this entire 5-year roadmap that you're just not exposing yet, right? And it's like, oh, as people in the industry, we're just waiting for them to give their big evil plan of what's going to happen or how it's going to change their life.
Exactly.
And it really is so much more just that. It's a marriage, and you're saying, hey, do we want to do business together? We're going to join forces, and then we're going to figure it out, right? And I think from an outsider's perspective, if you're listening to this and you're wondering, like what Jonah just shared, I think is so much more true than I think what people realize if you haven't gone through an acquisition is like, hey, we're still figuring it out, but we have confidence that we want to work together. We're aligned on our goals and our vision, and we're going to make a solution that is the best for our clients.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a little peek behind the curtain, I guess. So just like when you're hiring a new employee, the most important thing you can do is make sure that they're going to fit in with your team, that they think the way your team thinks, right? That's way more important than what they know how to do. I think you agree with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's even more truer here. So we did a cultural survey between our two companies, just asking how do people think about various things, voice of the customer, working towards making raving fans. Do we work together as a team? What's the most important thing? What are our cultural values? And then we scored them. And we looked at which things Microvellum scored higher on than Innergy and vice versa. And we really do think of this as, we're bringing together the best parts of two cultures. We each had our own creed, and, they have their set of values. And they are different words, but at core, they mean the same thing. And I was absolutely shocked by that. That is 100% how we got our board to approve spending a great deal of money on this. Was like, look at all the stuff we can do. There is no big plan. We're not going to shut off Microvellum. That's the first thing everybody asks. And I assume on your question, Innergy's mission is to create raving fans. And we believe that to our core. And we've actually changed our behavior various times because of that. We've stopped growing to make sure that we were building raving fans and not just a bigger customer base.
Right.
And with Microvellum, if we were to mess with Microvellum, we would create a group of people who want us to die in a fire, not raving fans.
Right.
So we will not be doing that. Microvellum's management team will continue to make their own choices about what their product does, because I think you know me, man. I think I'm a pretty smart guy, but I don't know enough to come and start messing with something and not screw it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, on that, for existing Microvellum customers, Microvellum's not going away. In fact, it's going to continue to grow and develop. But from that perspective, what changes will we see that benefits Microvellum from Innergy's resources and partnership? Obviously, you talked a little bit about, it makes more sense. Innergy can invest both on the Microvellum side and the Innergy side where it benefits both mutually. But is there anything that speaking to those people, the guys on the Microvellum forums, the people that are currently that don't use Innergy, what can they expect?
yeah. So again, that team is going to continue to make their own choices about what they do. We're not forcing them to do anything. If I want them to do something, I literally have to convince them that it's a good idea. So starting with that as a preface, I will say, part of the goal, honestly, is going to be a better ecosystem between Microvellum and Innergy. So some of the things I can imagine, but again, I'm not promising because I literally can't. I have to talk them into this. It would be things like, I could imagine you open up a Microvellum file and you get a pop-up that says, hey, you're not tracking time to this. Do you want to change your time? Yes, I do. That's a nice little quality of life. I can imagine a world where when you click on a product in Microvellum, you can see if it's been produced yet on the shop floor. You can see the parts that have been cut or not at your, beam saw, router, whatever. You can see the part tracking. We have all that stuff built in, right? Yeah. I can imagine a world where we offer some portion of our part tracking to Microvellum customers because, hey, it's something that they need. There's so much overlap in the cool stuff we have in both of our software products that there's like a never-ending stream of things. You will see some more resources brought to bear on some parts of the product for sure, but we're not going to come in and change anything.
Yeah. So, from the resources, some of the things you mentioned there, obviously for those that do use Innergy and Microvellum, there is likely potential to be some very low-hanging fruit benefits they can expect of further integration between the two of things because right now there is integration. You can export or import from Microvellum into Innergy, right?
Correct.
But there is not an interface integration of, like you said, hey, I can see data between the two. And those are probably the earliest things that they would expect to see is, hey, the things that already exist in Innergy, can we sync the data between them, make available information? Part tracking, you mentioned, Innergy has a solution for part tracking comparable to other standalone software in the industry on the market. Those are things that, it sounds like you could see bringing into Microvellum, making available to Microvellum customers.
Yeah, there are things I can see adding value to Microvellum customers for sure. We're not going to make you, drop any integrations you have with any existing other ERPs or part tracking or MES or whatever. Microvellum will continue to be open and play nicely with everybody. Innergy will continue to be open and play nicely with all the other engineering solutions. At core, we're looking to solve hard problems in the industry, not make new ones of interoperability.
So another thing that is, I think hot on people's minds, Innergy is entirely cloud native from the get-go, right? And always has been. Do you see modernization of that kind in the future for Microvellum, of either making a version of it or making it more cloud-friendly, cloud-native in the future, and benefiting from Innergy's expertise and knowledge there and some sort of integration there?
Yeah. So, the fact that, my background, I was a user of various different engineering softwares, including Microvellum. And I like the cloud thing, obviously, or else I wouldn't have pushed us to build design. I'm not in charge of what Microvellum does. They remain a separate company doing, what they do. Having said that, their integration with a leading CAD platform is a big part of their appeal. So it would be hard to get away from that. Now, I can imagine a world where you can use your Microvellum data over in Innergy Design, and inside Microvellum, you can open up and use some features from Design. So I don't know if you're going to see any real obvious changes, but I can also see a world where we build out this nesting and machine code technology. The Innergy side is cloud to begin with. I mean, in Design today, I can send out nesting and generate machine code, and I can have 5 different projects all nesting and machine code at the same time because it's not tying up my computer. It's just running out on the cloud servers, right? And as more are needed, they just scale up. Can we get that into Microvellum too? Well, we'll be using a lot of the same code.
Right. So there's some things that Microvellum has already been going through from modernization outside of the Innergy acquisition, right? And I think from maybe people that aren't actively updating every release from Microvellum or actively paying attention, they're getting work done, right? A lot of those updates may seem like, what the heck is this? You're changing the way I work. For example, license management, right? And some of those things that they're going to also perceive a lot of these updates as, oh, now that Innergy is acquiring them, they're going to change how everything works. But there are some things that just had to happen or have to happen because of software modernization. There's things that Autodesk dictates through the way they update their software and license management. There's things that Windows dictates that requires modernization and updates. Can you talk a little bit about just that side of things that maybe for people that aren't software people, but they're just that everyday users maybe don't understand? Like there's a modernization process Microvellum has had to go through, I know, recently, and is still going through, of updating the code base because of deprecation from Autodesk specifically. And then obviously we see Windows, they're already starting to have a sunset date of support for Windows 10 and things like that, right? Those things are constantly happening, and those aren't things that Microvellum decides or Innergy decides, right? But you guys have to support that. Can you talk a little bit about that side of things, just in terms that our user base and our listeners maybe can understand a little bit more about the software development cycle and what you guys have to deal with?
Happy to. I will preface it by saying, I can't speak to Microvellum in all that much detail. I probably do know some things that I don't know if I can share or not. So
Right.
I'll be you've known me for long enough to know that I'm real transparent. So I'll just say there's some things that I don't know if they share or not. That when you go through due diligence, which I've been through a couple of times, it's a painful inspection of every orifice and crevice that you have.
Yeah.
So, all right. Having said all that, we actually didn't get to look at any of their code and such during that process, just because they're a competitor. And when you're doing this, they put up firewalls and stuff. So I probably don't. You probably know more than I do. All right. Preface out of the way. I'll speak generally to the topic because we have it too, right? It's not just, you mentioned Autodesk and Windows. We're web-based, but we have it too. The libraries, they get old. Software is not like a tool. It's not like a machine. With a machine, you put it in, it'll keep doing what it's always done. But software is so integrated with everything going around it that as other stuff changes, you have to keep fixing it. We at various times spend 30-40% of our efforts just on making sure that we're up to date and the application will continue to run. So I think Microvellum has been very public with the fact that they built up tech debt over the years. And tech debt is an analogy that we use in software. It's very similar to regular debt. So you can use regular debt to get stuff done in real life that you don't have the capital to do. And it can be good or bad, right? If you use debt to get, to buy a building that you're going to use for a company to make more money, well, that debt will pay itself off over time. But you got it done a lot quicker than if you just had to pay for out of cash flow. That's what tech debt is. You decide to do something the wrong way, in a way that's going to be hard to maintain in the future or hard to expand. But you do it because it solves a problem right now. You got some customers who need feature X, you get them feature X. Ideally, you continue growing your user base, which means you have more developers, which means you have the time to pay back that tech debt. Microvellum has said they're in a mode of having to pay some of that tech debt down. Now, you're right. They're inside another product. So when that other product makes changes, if Microvellum wants to support the version 2026 of that product, they have to make those changes also. And they don't, right. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, if they don't do it, then you can't have a version 2026. And that recently has included some, I think you probably saw, there were some forum posts about, oh, I don't like how this control changed, that control changed. Well, Autodesk updated to a new version and those old controls don't work on it. So right. They can either do one of two things. They can put a whole bunch of work into trying to make that old control compatible with the future, which may not even be possible, or they can use a new control from somebody and try to make it work close enough to the old control that people are familiar, but maybe they get a few new nice little features with it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think not enough people understand that, yeah, Microvellum is a product that lives inside of somebody else's product ultimately, which the benefits we get is, hey, everybody that's familiar with AutoCAD, Autodesk, DWG format, you get the full benefits of that. But the cons that come with that is we got to play by their rules and we got to play by what they still support and update and stuff. And so I think a lot of the users that I see out there commenting forget that context. Or whereas like a Mosaic or Cabinet Vision, they control the whole application. The pros of that is they control the whole application. The cons of that is they have to make it what they make, and they don't get the benefits of something that has such a large user base as a DWG format and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you know what? That gets to the cloud versus desktop. And there, you know, if anybody ever tells you that they know the right software you should use without asking you a lot of questions, they're just trying to sell you something. There is no right software. What's the right car?
Right.
There is no right car, right? It's the same here. So we now have a solution that's on-prem, desktop-based, and a solution that's web-based. There are pros and cons to them. There's no silver bullet. The web-based has the pro that you don't have to deal with updates, ever. You just use it every day and you have the newest version, right?
Yep.
Desktop has its own pros. We have to fight performance things to make it work fast enough on the web that you just don't even have to worry about on a desktop. And honestly, it's easier and faster to develop a desktop application. So there's pros and cons. We have both now, and that's part of the power of this us getting together.
So a little bit further on that topic, you know, as you know, and I know, there's always resistance to change and fears surrounding change in our industry, whether it be software, process, new machines, acquisitions, whatever it is, right? And in my opinion, I think woodworkers are sometimes some of the most stubborn to change, right? And as you alluded to, like, Innergy is changing every day. If you use it, you're getting the latest version of whatever updates you guys have pushed out. And so I'd imagine there's some benefit in that your existing user base is like, they're getting little trickle changes every day, as opposed to, hey, here's a whole new build we're releasing out 3 months later that has all these changes. So I'd imagine there's some benefit to that from the user standpoint. Is it's kind of like the frog in the pot, as opposed to most, you know, kind of legacy standard software is like, hey, here's a new build that you have to actively choose to install, and you're suddenly getting, I mean, we see it with Facebook or anything. Oh gosh, they changed the UI, and everybody for a week panics and complains, and then they move on, right? So what do you feel, though, that Innergy has learned through your years of putting out software and working with customers, how to manage change for your clients? And two, how do you think that that's going to transfer? Do you think there's anything you can bring to Microvellum to improve that for the user base?
Yeah, it's a great question. So change management is the thing, and we're going through it ourselves right now. You know, no change is easy. We've been tackling that problem since the beginning. Then it was actually one of our founders' passions about what was going to be different between Innergy and your normal software company. I don't know if you know this, but we're in the ERP space, and over half of all ERP implementations fail in general. Okay, we have incredible retention. We have like a 96% logo retention, which means 96% of all of our customers we've ever had are still with us. And most of the ones that aren't with us were either went out of business or were bought by another one of our customers. So, you know, we tackled that problem. So when we implement with a customer, we start with the change model. We believe in the Cotter change model, and we're going through it ourselves. Can we help Microvellum with that in some way? I don't know. I mean, this purchase wasn't based on the idea that Microvellum needed any help, to be real honest with you. You know, we're not coming at it that way at all. They do an amazing job. They also have very high measures on everything: retention, happiness. So I do think that together there are things we can both learn from each other 100%. Like, we both had very painful lessons over the years that cost us a lot of money, and bringing those two things together we can totally help each other.
Yeah.
But the change process is always hard. So the most important part of the change model that we preach is you have to create a sense of urgency. Nobody ever changes until the pain of staying the same is more than the pain of changing. They'll just keep doing what they're doing if they're fat and happy. And so we're having to do this ourselves. As a company, we're going to adopt EOS as a framework inside Innergy. And we're creating this sense of urgency around that.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, we recently implemented EOS last year as well, and it's been huge. And speaking a little bit to the Microvellum side, because I've as you know, I've been a Microvellum user for, 12 some years. I'm still a customer to this day. And for those who are more recent users and customers of Microvellum, you may not know how much they've improved on change management, on product stability, on support, and those types of things. But that has been a lot of the work that David, I credit a lot with him. He's actually a second owner of the company, and he took what was already a great product, but really they focused on stabilization and focusing in on narrowing their focus on, hey, let's stabilize the product and the core functions of what people use it for. And even with their library, they used to release a new library almost every year, and it was like you had to choose, okay, do I want to make the jump this year? And over the last 3 or 4 years with the foundation library, it's, hey, we're going to stop making new libraries. We're going to make one that we can continue to improve and update. And so I think a lot of times customers and users, they lose that big picture view of, oh my gosh, this little minor inconvenience is what I'm focused on now, and it's a pain for me today. But one, Microvellum as a product has come very far, and there is a great deal of stability in their build updates and their support, and how transparent they are with that, which I think also is a lot of why people don't realize that they have that voice. There's a lot of users on there that most of them are hey, we're helping each other, we're positive, and there's some really good Facebook groups as well. But sometimes, I think people focus on the cons and the complaints and the things like that. But as you said, they, as a standalone product, I think they do a great job at this, and I'm eager to see and excited to see how you guys mutually benefit from that.
Well, it's funny. My job, I'm the head of product. As a product person, my job is to tell everybody no all the time, but in such a way that they're still happy with me at the end, right?
Yeah.
Because there's no amount of resources we could bring to bear that could possibly satisfy all the things everybody wants, right? And so it's fun when we got into the cultural stuff with our Microvellum friends now. We had the conversation about voice of the customer. How do we listen to the voice of the customer? And one of the things I heard from everybody there was the thing that excites them the most about this is having the resources to do more things that customers ask for. They've been in the period you mentioned where they're trying to stabilize, whatever word you used, and that didn't allow them to do as much of that stuff. And they're looking forward to a future where there's more of that. I am going to share the story of this shirt, though.
Yeah.
So as a team, before we got the deal done, we were headed out to Microvellum, and I decided how cool would it be to show up in a shirt that had both of our logos on it, right? But it was too late to order any shirts. So I looked high and low. I talked to 15 different shirt places one day, and I finally found a place that's like 2 miles from my house that can do whatever shirt you want in whatever quantity in like an hour. It's like the Lens crafters of custom shirts, which is really fun by itself. But that's my thing now. I'm getting like a custom shirt for everything. Every event I ever go to, I'm going with a custom shirt of some kind. It's kind of fun. But we showed up, and I brought, 40 of them or so, and we distributed them to all the people there. It was really fun. We ended up doing, demos of our products to each other. And remember, we hadn't actually signed anything yet. So we had the whole Microvellum team there, and we're walking them through Innergy, and you could see their eyes getting huge because they're like, this is so cool. And then we were showing Microvellum to our people, and our people are thinking it's so cool. And it's the energy I can't emphasize enough. Like, we don't know precisely where we're going to go. We just know we're going to go somewhere great.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Which is a weird pitch, by the way, when you're trying to get someone to write a really big check.
Yeah. It's going to be great, but I can't tell you how or why, but it's going to be great.
But we got there. We have, luckily our board they have the vision. So
shifting a little bit now back to Innergy design. We talked a year and a half ago when you guys were, launching to a small set of customers at that point. And so since we last spoke on the podcast, which you probably don't remember exactly where things were, but it's grown a lot and it's improved a lot. You guys done a ton of development. Can you talk about where energy design stands today?
Sure. Yeah. It has grown a lot. We have a much larger team than basically anybody that I know of in this space working on this. So much stuff. I will tell you, we had our customer summit, and you attended.
Yeah.
And we were racing the clock, hoping to close this deal with Microvellum so that instead of announcing the launch of design, we would announce the Microvellum because it does change our design roadmap a little bit.
Yeah.
Because we want to incorporate these other technologies. So, for example, we launched it there, and I got up in front of 500 people who were there with me and launched it. And then, a week later, I sent an email that said, "Hey, here's the news, and we're unlaunching," which marketing told me never to say that, but I said it anyway. We stopped. We're not charging our users for it because we pulled our own nesting and machine code out while we start working with our new partner on it, and it does affect things. So I'll tell you where we're at now. Is by the end of this year, the plan is that with design, it will have I'm going to say capability parity with the major things. So you can do everything in design that you could do in any of the other software packages, right? May not have every last little feature because some people have been building stuff for 40 years, but you'll be able to do everything. Right now you can do a lot of it, but we yanked our nesting and machine code. And what good is an engineering software that doesn't have nesting and machine code, right?
Yeah.
So that's the end of the year. Next year we'll work on, hopefully building in this, sharing the product library from Microvellum, that kind of thing. What I want you to be able to do is literally maintain a Microvellum library inside Innergy. And so that means, spreadsheet features and features to do bulk editing and edit the database type stuff.
So for people that are today, because I hear from this a lot, is people that are asking, as I'm sure they do you and anybody in this industry, is like, what software should I buy? And I'm sure this comes up a lot now. Just, well, should I buy Microvellum or should I wait on design? Should
100%.
I buy design or should I, what should I do? And there is no single right answer, obviously, right? There's a lot you got to know about customers. But for example, at the summit, there was an existing Innergy customer that I introduced to Microvellum. I said, hey, this would be a great solution for you, regardless of what happens with the design. I'm confident, I think for their case, I think it would be great. So for those people that are thinking like, hey, I'm about to buy Microvellum, but I don't know what the future holds, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. And you can imagine that day one, I got probably 40 emails along these lines.
Yeah.
So I came up with a pretty good answer pretty quick. We wholeheartedly recommend Microvellum. All right. Innergy, nobody's going to be using our design product until towards the end of the year to do anything real. Okay. Right. And if in design, you're going to be able to use all the investment that you've made into library customization, it's a pretty good path now. If you want to be on the cutting edge in a year or two, this is 100% a path to get there. And right. So I tell everybody, you should 100% jump into Microvellum these days. When we get there, for people who want to use both or transition from one to the other, we'll have some sort of a deal to get some credit for what you've spent. That won't be a problem. Again, we're all about raving fans, and we're not going to make anybody buy anything over. But the 60 or whatever 100K that you spend on Microvellum for a big shop is not going to be anything that you need to worry about losing or being a waste or something like that, because it's not. And you mentioned the forums. Microvellum's forums are free, so if you're interested in it, go sign up. There's a lot of really smart people talking about general industry things, but you can also learn the good, the bad, and the ugly about Microvellum. I was a Microvellum forum user from way back when I was and wasn't a Microvellum user.
Yes. Yeah, if you don't know on that note, Microvellum is one of the only. I think that their forum is completely open. You don't have to be a customer. You don't have to be a paid subscription user or subscriber or anything. You can just go create an account and start commenting, posting, or reading. as well as their knowledge base. There's a ton of resources on there if you're interested in finding out more about it. And
And you
then,
can
yeah,
talk to smart people like Jacob and annoying people like Jonah.
yes, and I think there are a lot of both, of all types of people that are new users, experienced users, energy users, non-energy users. Um, and then, yes, absolutely too, if people are thinking about buying Microvellum, I think that's, if anything, if you were on the fence before, um, I would think you should be more confident today.
Yeah, if we're not doing our if we're doing our job right, you should actually be it should be more exciting and should help you make your decision even better to move off of whatever else you're on onto Microvellum, because it's a very good product and it has a very strong future, and its sister product also has a strong future and will have interoperable data.
Yeah, awesome. So, shifting a little bit more big picture on the industry outside of just energy and Microvellum, right? And what are your kind of hopes and thoughts for the future? What do you see kind of in the next 5 to 10 years? Obviously, I think, there's a lot of talk about software development, a lot of talk about integration with AI. But as you mentioned before, our industry are laggards, right? And
100%.
generally, we're going to kind of wait and see, hey, what's working in these other industries before we really make the jump. What do you kind of see on the future that people can expect, or that you hope to see?
Yeah, great question. So, just engineering, we're talking, right? I do see we're never going to be able to make enough engineers to keep up with the demand. Just as an industry, we're not good at it. You have podcasts on it. I've given talks on it. As an industry, we're horrible at making engineers. So there will always be enough work for us engineers in this industry. People should not be worried that whatever technology that comes along is going to replace them, because I just don't think it will. I do think you're going to see technologies that are faster. The current engineering, you've heard my spiel. The current engineering state of engineering software is too slow, and we need it to be faster. So we're going to do some stuff to fix that along. I'm sure other people will too. It's going to get faster. I think you'll see it more outsourcing. I think you're going to see people having more drafting and engineering outsourcing. And again, if you're an engineer, it's not going to come at the expense of your job. This is going to be on top of what companies have in-house, right? The real problem with our industry is that it's so lumpy. Sales comes in giant lumps. You don't get the same amount of sales every week. And so somehow you have to smooth out that lumpiness of the incoming work into something steady for your factory floor.
Right.
It happens in engineering. And nobody could have enough engineers to staff for those peaks. You'd run out of money too quick. So I think our industry that's historically been pretty reluctant to outsource, we're going to get good at it. That's what I think is going to happen. And that's going to be technology. It's going to be change management, which you got back to before. And it's going to be a shift mostly in mindset.
Awesome.
AI, I will cut you off. Sorry. AI, I'm very excited about. We've got, 12, 13, 15% of our workforce working on AI features for our software. Right now we have AI embedded. You can, in our engineering software and design, you can ask it questions right now. Very shortly, you'll be able to ask it to make changes. So my favorite example is find me all the countertops that are 28 11/16 off the floor. If there's base cabinets below them, make them 28.5 inches tall. Make the countertop 1.5 inches. How often do we do that rote BS? Lots. And a computer can do that.
Yeah. And a little bit of a plug. Jonah and I will be, if you are an AWI member, even if you're not, at Spring Leadership in the first week of May, Jonah and I will actually be doing a panel talking about just this, the future of our industry, where we've come from, and kind of what we see the future, and interacting with the audience, and kind of in getting the audience's perspective on what they see the future in the next 5 to 10 years of our industry.
And just for everybody, Jacob ruined my big plan. I wanted to do a Back to the Future themed thing where like a DeLorean pops out and I pop out as Doc Brown and I grab Jacob and I'm like, I'm here to save you from making a mistake in the millwork industry.
It may or may not still happen. Come show up to see. Well, awesome. And so what, on the flip side of that though, a lot is going to stay the same. What do you see? I mean, you mentioned there's still going to need to be a huge need for engineers. That need is not going away, but the need for capacity is growing, and our ability to produce engineers is still less than what we have demand for, right?
100%.
Is there anything else that you see being consistent and staying the same in the future?
So I'm going to talk specifically about the two companies that I'm connected to here today for a minute. Focus on education. That was one of the things that really brought us to Microvellum. You probably know this, but that's Innergy's defining competitive difference. That's the thing. We think 50% of our value is in education, not just about software, but about the industry as a whole. And we're hoping that we can kind of talk our Microvellum partners into more education and trying to help build these things. I loved TechCon, and there hasn't been one for a few years. It would be amazing if there was another TechCon, right? But even bigger. And Jacob, you attended our education. We do education big, right? We had 500 people there, some pretty professional stuff. God, I could imagine that world in the engineering space, and that would be amazing. But otherwise, it's going to be more of the same. It's impossible to get enough shop floor people. It's impossible to get at least really skilled ones. It's impossible to get enough engineers. It's hard to get enough other office, but you can do it. So technology is the answer to a lot of those problems. And it's not going to come at the expense of people's jobs. It's just going to let us do more with the same amount of people we already have.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
Yeah. No, I think education is key, and you guys do it better than anybody in the industry. I saw it firsthand, and I hear every day from raving customers that we both work with. Microvellum has made a big leap in that front over the last couple of years as well, and they've been putting a lot of efforts into that. And I think that's what I'm most excited about, of the fusion of these two companies and the resources to be able to put behind that. And also, every one of the problems that our industry has, you just said, spoke to, I think is really improved by education. Whether it's getting more talent, and I think that's what generally our education sucks at is training and developing and educating people. And so much we're kind of behind the 8 ball on work, and you don't think about it until, well crap, I need to replace this person, or I need to hire another person, but I don't know how I'm going to train them. And so it's just throw them into it, and they're going to learn by doing. And education and kind of intentional creation of resources and thinking about how to do that makes that possible. And that's a big reason why so many of your customers, I think, stay and partnering with Innergy, is when you guys enable that for them right out the get-go. Hey, there's resources. If you're an Innergy customer or a Microvellum customer, they have resources that you can use to train and onboard somebody that is very entry level on how to do much of their job. And I think the more that we're able to develop those resources, the more beneficial it is for everybody. And two, I know so much of our industry is used to, well, the way we do things is different from everybody else, so you can't train my people. And yes, historically that's true, but the more that we assimilate the tools that we use, the software enables us to say, okay, if you work in this company in California, but you get hired to work for this company in Georgia, and they both use Innergy, or they both use Microvellum, it makes it that much easier to have, hey, they can leverage their experience and their knowledge to hit the ground running day one. And so that is the benefit to you as a business owner and to us as leaders in this industry of adopting and growing a software like Innergy or Microvellum, and standardizing things across even with machinery, we've seen it. Hey, if you know how to use a Holtzma or an SCM machine or whatever it is here, you can do the same thing there. And so I know that as woodworkers, we like to think everything we do is custom and handmade and unique to us, but there is a reason why every other industry standardizes some of these things with software, with technology. I think is the biggest thing that enables that and makes everybody's lives easier.
And just for fun, I just came back from visiting a customer of ours, Bednark. They're out in New York City. And every one of our customers says, hey, they always start off with, we couldn't possibly have software because we're very custom. And these guys just built a 60-foot tall poly pocket, if you remember what those are from the 80s, for I don't know, one of the Airbnb or something like that. I mean, it's like a full size, and that's a piece of millwork. So that's my new, are you this custom thing?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yes.
Well, Jonah, thank you again for coming on. As always, I'm excited to get this out and have people kind of hear from you, your thoughts on this acquisition and everything you've shared with us. For those that are listening, that are interested in finding out more, obviously we'll link Innergy, we'll link Microvellum. Is there any other thing you'd like to share for them to find out more? Talk to you, talk to Innergy, talk about what's going on?
Yeah, you can always email me. The Microvellum forums are pretty amazing. There's a whole thread on there, and it's got the good, the bad, and the ugly about what does this mean. So if you're curious, join. I think you can probably just see it without even joining, but check the thread out. It's got a personal letter from our CEO, from Microvellum CEO, explaining why they made this choice. Lots of people asking questions and being nervous, and we getting some answers for them. Reach out to any of us at Microvellum Cabinet. I messed that up, didn't I? I just started listing engineering softwares. Microvellum, Innergy. Yeah.
Email Cabinet Vision anyways.
No, yes. Email them and ask about this merger, yes.
Awesome. Well, again, always enjoy, we get to chat and hang out, Jonah. And then look forward to seeing you in a few weeks at Spring Leadership.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Do you want to stay up to date about industry insights, new content, and our community of millworkers? Go to ductworksmw.com to sign up for our newsletter. I'll see you in the next episode of Verify in Field.